for all the carry-on about Prince Harry needing security when he visits the UK, well, you'd think he'd be a bit more discerning about knocking on random doors in London.
You suck. You suck.
I feel that.
What? Prince Harry just tried to sneak back into the heart of British celebrity culture and got slammed with a brutal no. Not from the palace, not from the press, but from the BAFTAs. Yes, the prestigious British TV Awards turned him away cold, and insiders say it wasn't just a rejection, it was a reckoning. The message: Britain has moved on and Harry's no longer invited. Prince Harry thought a quiet phone call to a well-connected friend might smooth his path back into Britain's glittering elite. Instead, he got a door slam so hard it echoed across the entertainment world. According to insiders, Harry reached out to none other than actor and BAFTA host Alan Cumming, hoping for a discreet invitation to the 2025 BAFTA TV Awards. It wasn't a public campaign, there were no nominations tied to his name, just a behind-the-scenes request for a red carpet re-entry. But Alan wasn't having it. His response, a blunt, unequivocal no. One producer who overheard the discussions put it plainly: this night is for creators, not complainers.
Looking for a friend, he knocked on about 3 doors until he found the house, but discovered that, of course, the people he knew don't live there anymore. Apparently a Spanish family is now renting the property. But as you say, Caro, it makes a mockery of his claim of wanting to make taxpayers to pay for his security.
You know, we know what's next. That rejection didn't just sting, it reverberated, because this wasn't just about one man being turned away from a glamorous event. It was a cultural moment. The BAFTAs, one of the UK's most respected institutions, effectively declared Prince Harry persona non grata. No headlines, no photo ops, no royal sideshow, just silence. And for a man who once commanded the world's attention in military dress, standing tall beside his family, this quiet rejection was louder than any tabloid scandal. It signaled a shift, one that's been building for years. Britain isn't just tired of Harry's drama, it's done with it. Harry wasn't looking to celebrate British television. He wasn't championing creators, scripts, or performances. What he wanted, what he needed, was a stage, a moment, a sliver of public goodwill to begin clawing his way back into the spotlight. That BAFTA invite wasn't about television, it was about optics, about staging a comeback, about proving that he could still straddle 2 worlds. The royal past he walked away from, and the Hollywood future he struggled to conquer.
Absolutely. I mean, look, there's just such a big difference between the words and the deeds there that it makes you really question the credibility of what he has to say.
His team pitched the appearance as low-key, respectful, even charitable, but insiders weren't fooled. Behind the scenes, it was clear this wasn't a celebration of TV, it was a calculated attempt at image rehab. The Sussex PR machine saw the BAFTAs as a chance to reposition Harry not as a disgraced royal or media litigant, but as a respected transatlantic figure. Part royal, part activist, part celebrity. A modern man in touch with art, justice, and culture. But the problem was glaring. There was no invitation because there was no contribution. Harry had no projects in contention, no performances, no production, no relevance to the night's purpose. And Alan Cumming, never one to mince words, reportedly made that very clear. He didn't want the event hijacked by a redemption arc no one asked for. Because when you peel back the layers, Harry's request wasn't about honoring culture, it was about inserting himself back into it. A desperate cameo in a show he's no longer part of.
Well, this amazing picture of Harry has come out of London where he's buzzing on someone's door. It's been captured on a Ring camera, which of course nearly every London home has now due to security fears. He was wandering the streets of Fulham in West London.
Behind the glitz of red carpets and the flash of cameras, there's a quieter conversation happening in boardrooms, backstage lounges, and production meetings. And it's not flattering. Across the entertainment industry, a growing number of insiders are whispering the same thing. They're tired of the drama, tired of the grievances, tired of the Sussex saga dragging every event into a swirl of controversy and clickbait. What once felt like a fresh, rebellious rebrand of royalty has curdled into a cautionary tale of overexposure, under-delivery, and endless self-promotion. The BAFTAs weren't just saying no to Prince Harry, they were dodging a headline. One senior producer reportedly summed it up like this: "We didn't want a circus." And that's exactly what Harry and Meghan have come to represent in certain circles. Not artistic legitimacy or cultural cachet, but chaos. When their names appear on a guest list, the conversation shifts from creativity to controversy. Will there be another tell-all moment, a passive-aggressive speech, a backstage meltdown? Event organizers don't want to find out. And this isn't an isolated vibe shift, it's becoming a pattern. From charity galas to Hollywood awards shows, the Sussexes are being quietly sidelined. Not banned, but avoided. Not because they're political, but because they're unpredictable. What should be about art, excellence, or humanitarianism too often becomes a referendum on them. And for an industry obsessed with image, that kind of distraction is bad business.
Television Awards 2025 with P&O Cruises. Tonight, we find out who will win an award and who will be murdered. I've changed the rules. This is my first time hosting a major televised awards ceremony on British soil.
There was a time when Prince Harry could do no wrong. The soldier prince, the cheeky royal, the champion of wounded veterans. He was the monarchy's most relatable figure, beloved for his charm, his service, and his willingness to break the royal mold just enough to feel human. After his tours in Afghanistan, his work with Invictus, and his role in supporting mental health causes, he stood as a symbol of a modern monarchy, imperfect but sincere. But that version of Harry is long gone. Today, he's not celebrated for what he builds, but scrutinized for what he burns. Since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Harry's transformation has been nothing short of spectacular, and not in the way he hoped. His legacy now reads like a tabloid backlog, explosive interviews, family betrayals, a memoir packed with score settling, and a string of lawsuits against the press that, while sometimes principled, have done little to shift public perception. Instead of evolving into a thought leader or cultural bridge, he's become a walking contradiction, a man who rails against the media while constantly feeding it.
Be gentle, Britain. And if you think hundreds of thousands of people watching a cherry being popped on screen is weird, then you probably don't surf the internet too much. And I say bravo to you. But enough of me. What do you think of my last movie?
And the public, they've noticed. The red carpet reverence has turned into red-faced rejection. What was once royal gravity has been replaced with PR desperation. Where there was substance, now there are sound bites. And institutions like BAFTA aren't just pushing back, they're pulling away. Because Harry doesn't represent stability, prestige, or purpose anymore. He represents noise. And that's not something you invite to a night meant to celebrate excellence. While Harry's BAFTA rejection made headlines, Meghan Markle's absence spoke even louder. Once hailed as the strategic force behind the Sussex brand, Meghan is nowhere to be seen in this latest chapter, and that silence isn't accidental. The woman who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Harry, crafting a united front through interviews, documentaries, and public appearances, is now noticeably distant. No statement, no appearance, no subtle Instagram signal of support, just air.
Well, awards mean nothing. We all know that, right? Awards mean absolutely nothing. And you look great, Daniel, which is all that matters. It really does. Kudos to your plastic surgeon, seriously. We can cut this bit out, right? I'll just go back a little bit. Yeah, okay. I'm honored to be in a room so full of TV time.
Sources close to the couple whisper that Meghan is shifting gears, stepping away from joint crusades and leaning hard into solo brand building, fashion collaborations, private dinners with Hollywood elites, and carefully curated appearances that have nothing to do with lawsuits or leaked royal grievances. After the failure of her animated Netflix Project Pearl, the end of their Spotify deal, and the cooling interest from major media players, Meghan's pivot feels less like partnership and more like self-preservation. Because let's be honest, if this were a coordinated Sussex comeback, she'd be front and center, arm in arm with Harry, turning the BAFTAs into a strategic photo op. But she wasn't, and that absence cuts deep. Whether it's calculated distance or quiet disapproval, Meghan's move sends a clear message. She's not going down with the ship, not this time.
Of genres. Yes, the smell of eclecticism in this room is pungent. And I do mean that as a huge compliment, because I am a man who has straddled many a genre over the years. Oh yes, my genre straddling is the stuff of legend. Of course, I currently host...
Call it a blacklist, call it fatigue, call it calculated exclusion, whatever the term, it's happening. Behind the velvet ropes and carefully worded press releases, there's a quiet consensus forming across the UK's cultural institutions and even parts of Hollywood. Harry and Meghan are now more liability than legacy. No one's announcing it outright, but insiders are clear. Invite them, and you risk the story becoming about them, not the project, not the talent, not the cause. The BAFTAs just made the unspoken rule loud. One source close to the committee was blunt: he brings drama, not dignity. And that's the dividing line. In an era where institutions like like BAFTA are trying to regain their own global credibility, especially post-pandemic, and amid industry upheaval, they're drawing hard lines around who gets a seat at the table. Harry no longer qualifies, not because he left the royal family, but because of what he's done since.
But over the years, I've written and acted in comedy, The High Life. I've been in drama, The Good Wife. And yes, I only appear in shows whose titles rhyme. I've been in a soap opera, Take the High Road.
Every lawsuit file, every televised gripe, every emotional monologue disguised as a documentary. It's added up. The once beloved prince has become a magnet for controversy, and the industry is tired of trying to clean up the mess. It's no longer worth the risk, and this isn't about picking sides between royals. It's about protecting brand integrity, about ensuring that an award show stays an award show, not a backdrop for another Sussex saga. Even in Hollywood, where star power once eclipsed everything else, there are cracks. Netflix is quietly scaling back on Sussex-related content. Spotify walked away with a now infamous grifters jab. The A-list events that once embraced the couple are offering fewer invitations and even fewer photo ops. The doors aren't slamming shut all at once. They're just not opening anymore.
Yes, Scottish murder seemed to be a theme in my career. I've also done travel documentaries like Miriam and Alan, Lost in Scotland, in which I drove a camper van on single-track roads through some of the...
Prince Harry's quiet plea to attend the BAFTAs wasn't just a failed PR move, it was a moment of mirror-shattering clarity. For a man who once stood at the center of national mourning, walking behind the Queen's coffin with the weight of history on his shoulders, this was something else entirely. A private ask flatly denied, no cameras, no red carpet, no seat, just a cold reminder that relevance isn't inherited and it definitely can't be begged for. Alan Cumming's rejection wasn't cruel, it was clinical. It echoed what so many in the industry and the public have come to feel but rarely say aloud. We've had enough. Enough of the victim narratives dressed up as documentaries. Enough of the lawsuits masquerading as justice. Enough of the performances that feel less like activism and more like ego management. The Sussex brand, once brimming with potential, is now weighed down by a reputation it can't shake. In Meghan's absence, that was the final punctuation mark. Her silence during Harry's solo attempt at cultural reinvention said what no spokesperson ever could. Even she sees the writing on the wall. The BAFTA snub wasn't just a rejection of a man, it was the quiet burial of an idea. That Harry could jump back into the spotlight on his own terms. That a title and a backstory are enough to carry him through rooms built for artists, innovators, and culture makers. They're not. What Harry asked for wasn't recognition, it was reinvention. But reinvention requires more than headlines. It demands substance, humility, and proof that you still belong. And right now, the answer is clear, he does. From palace gates to Hollywood sound stages, the message is becoming impossible to ignore. The Sussex era of spectacle is closing, and the world they once captivated is quietly moving on without them.
We would be lying to ourselves if we said Meghan didn't experience any racism from this family. Those headlines are shocking. And if you don't believe me, let's just dive in and you can leave an explanation for the differences. So number one, we have a headline where Kate is holding her baby bump, and the headline reads, "Not long ago, pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump while wrapping up her royal duties ahead of maternity leave." And William confirms she's due any minute now. Whereas Meghan was touching her baby bump, and it says, "Why can't Meghan Markle keep her hands off her bump?" Experts tackle the question that has got the nation talk. Is it pride, vanity, acting, or a new age bonding technique? Whew. There was another one where Meghan got slammed for putting her hands in her pockets, and then apparently that's not allowed. And then the Queen was also putting her hands in her pockets. This one went pretty viral. You might remember about the avocado. So this came from the exact same tabloid, which was Express, who printed a story on Kate first that said, "Kate's morning sickness cure. Prince William gifted an avocado for pregnant Duchess." The same magazine publishes an article about Meghan, saying, "Meghan Markle's beloved avocado linked to human rights abuse and drought, millennial shame." Who writes these?